everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to my channel. I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. And you are joining me for another magical pre-show tarot reading. If this is your first time here, welcome. I am going to be your reader today. I'm also going to be your host, your guide, your mentor, and instructor in all things magic, witchcraft, astrology, and witchy business. And today's episode is part 2 of 2 in a little mini series that I did this week. So if you haven't listened to that first video yet, make sure you go ahead and go do that first, then come back here so that we can wrap things up. Today's episode is a good one, so let's all get into the reading. I invite all of you today, which is Friday, January 21st, we've got Mercury retrograde. We all just came down off of a very big full moon essentially over the weekend. The full moon took place technically on Monday, but we felt a lot of those vibrations before, which means we are definitely still feeling a lot of those ripple effects now afterward. So I invite all of you with me today to close your eyes if you feel called to, but take in a nice deep breath. Exhale that out. Make sure that you feel really grounded and really rooted wherever you are sitting. Adjust physically wherever you need to feel like your weight is as evenly distributed as possible so that you just feel as grounded as possible and as little distraction or tension as possible. Now, really open yourself up to any guidance, any insight that you may be seeking right now, okay? Or any insight or guidance you may be needing right now. I knew it. I was like, it might not be what you're seeking, but all right, everybody. The card that popped right out for us today is our inverted King of Pentacles. So I am, as always, using the Deviant Moon Tarot deck by Patrick Valenza. The link to purchase this deck is below in the description box. But let's talk about an inverted king, because this is kind of a mic drop. It's not that the card this time necessarily jumped out of the deck. This time the deck was like inverted King of Pentacles. First and foremost, when we have the king in its upright position, we see a balanced, harmonious master of their suit or their journey. Both the king and the queen represent equal halves of that whole mastery, okay, in each suit. So you can take that into any of the suit, any of the kings or queens. Take that little seed with you. When we bring in the energy of the pentacles here, we have a very, very grounded leader. This is somebody with their head straight on their shoulders, great forward and long term, and dualistic, the short term and the now vision. Okay, this is, again, we're really seeing a lot of balance and harmony when the king is in its upright position. This is somebody that's very good with their finances on both a very practical level and a very intuitive level. We really do have to remember that about Earth energy, whether it's Earth in tarot, Earth energy that you're working with, Earth in astrology in your chart. We do need to remember that, yes, of course, this energy brings with it this logic and this practicality, right? That's the groundedness. And Earth, like water, is one of the most intuitive signs, okay? This is a sign or an energy that is typically associated with the divine feminine. This is very, very intuitive. And honestly, there is some emotional basis here. There's some emotional experience here. And we really, really label Earth as unemotional. And we need to remember that all 4 of the elements really experience emotion in their own way. And so when we look at the theme of emotion, when it comes to this card, especially when it comes to physical or financial matters or matters of career, any matters of Earth school and what we do here, right, on Earth in our physical experience, in this uprighted position, this is somebody very in tune with their emotions. They're not emotionless. They're very in tune with their emotions. And that emotional experience does not dictate, define, or control this individual's path. Now let's talk about how the card did get dropped to us, which is in its reversed or its inverted position. Well, first and foremost, definitely I have always seen a reversed King of Pentacles as somebody who is taking advantage of their financial situation. And I want you to really sit with the vagueness of that phrase and let however its meaning like come and land on you the way that it's meant to. Because that can look like, somebody that's really irresponsible with their money and they're really frivolous. And so they're taking advantage of, just having money, right? And they're just being mindless with it. It could be somebody who's being extremely dishonest with finances. Again, that's also really broad, right? There's so many ways you could see that. It could be somebody who is being extremely withholding or stingy, right? Being very, very selfish or even harmfully self-interested, if you will, and taking advantage of their finances or other people's finances in that way. So we really, in this regard, in this headspace, we have somebody who is, I'm feeling so restless today, so bear with me while I adjust in my chair all day long. This is definitely somebody who is feeling out of control in their physical environment right now. This is somebody who is not feeling like, it feels like it's on the tip of your tongue, especially when it's an inverted king. I always see it as like, I know that I can do this thing. I know that I have these skills. I know that I have this knowledge. And I know that I have this process. Why can I not bring all these things together cohesively and really live smoothly through my physical experience? And honestly, namely in my financial situation, we always get a lot of money in Pentacles. It doesn't always, when we pull these cards for ourselves, it doesn't always mean straight up hard financial meaning, but I will tell all of you that today, especially, that is very much the strong vibration that's coming through for me. That's definitely the message that I'm getting from this today, that this is definitely money is on the brain right now, and it feels like you're almost there, like you've almost got it under control, you've almost figured it out, right? Is that where you feel like you're in your process or your pattern that you're trying to maybe reshape for yourself? Here is my advice for you, especially when it comes to a king or a queen. Sometimes it's the smallest, most subtle, and simplest little shifts or decisions that bring us harmony and balance. And therefore we feel, rejuvenated by our inner wisdom. So I'm very called to tell you that you're looking for a very, very big solution to what you are looking at as a very, very big problem. And I feel very called to you today to remind you of the relativity of the situation, of the real proportions. I want you to be in true earth fashion. Come back down into your feet. Come back down and root into reality, not in your fears, not in your anxieties, not in your stress, okay? Not in your traumas, not in your wounds. Be here and now. Be realistic. This is the wisdom of Earth. This is why it's not a non-emotional sign. We're very dualistic here. Take both the left and the right sides of your brain right now and be realistic about your situation when it comes to money. I want you to first remember how far you've come. We got a king. I don't care if it's reversed. We got a king. Look at how far you've come. I want you to, you're here and looking at everything from a very silly, unrealistic, we can't walk through life upside down. That's very unrealistic. Turn back right side up and look at this. Take off whatever glasses or whatever filter you've got on and look at this practically and logically. Look at how far you've come. Look at your progress. Knowing that, there's a few things. Number one, you can track your progress a little bit. And I often find that some of, if not most of, the biggest shifts and changes in our habits and our patterns came from very, very small motions or choices. I mean, most of my most aligned rituals and patterns and routines and habits that I've created for myself, or on the flip side, the really hard, difficult, toxic ones that I've been able to break out of and let go of, I can trace almost every single one of those to a very, very simple shift. Sometimes big, giant things happen and stir up our life, and it gives us a big aha moment and an epiphany, right? But that actually doesn't happen very often. It's much more frequently found in the small and the subtle, which means that the small and the subtle is just as important and profound and powerful as the big life-changing stuff, okay? So knowing that, I want you to take a big, sigh of relief. I want you to let a weight come off of your chest, because that means this is not a very big problem like it feels like, or the solution is also probably very simple. Even if your problem is much bigger than a small one, I would not be surprised if a couple of very small, subtle changes, adjustments, eliminations, or additions would be massively beneficial. When it comes to finances, just to leave you all with some King of Pentacles quick tips. First and foremost, what are very simple things right now that you can permanently or just temporarily cut out of your spending right now? There is almost always room. But if you are someone who's been in a position I've also found myself in, where you've literally cut every single expense, and you're really, really very disciplined, and your money is going to surviving basically, and there's no more room for cutting. This episode is for you today, number one, because I want us to start really expanding on our ideas and therefore our actions and the things we try, the new things we give a try when it comes to making and spending money, okay? So I want you to, if you don't already earn some kind of income for yourself, if you only are employed by another company, I really encourage you to start exploring unique and creative things that you can either sell or offer for money, or, and this is what I'm excited to talk about today, or to offer in very fair, equal exchanges of goods and services. So when you really open up to your humanness, and that means when you open up to your humanness, you are unlocking your natural creativity and resourcefulness. We are freaking born adapters, okay? We're born evolutionaries. Know that you're born with this, just as being born in this shell form in this life. And when you can really open up to new ideas, some maybe unconventional ideas, and take a shot, trying some new things, you would be surprised at how easy it is to make even a couple extra $100 a month for yourself, or get some kind of service covered for yourself that you weren't able to cover before. There's lots of really unique collaborative things we can start doing together. I hope that you feel inspired. I hope that you feel strong and you remember how far you've come. I really hope that you remember how far you've come. Because I guarantee there's a past version of yourself that would be very grateful for a lot of the things that you have, okay? So my last tip for you before we head into the episode is don't forget to save some money. We're really not taught to save our money. And we think that when we buy things for ourselves, like on a personal level, that's how we keep our money for ourselves, but we never build any wealth that way. So I really encourage you, even if it's only 5 to 10% of what you make every time you make income, even if it's $20, $200, $2,000, $20,000, whatever it is, if you can save, and preferably if you're anything like me, somewhere separate where you can't really see it, in a different account or a different area, safe place, 5 to 10% of everything that you make. And that alone is going to start a really, really, really beautiful ball of momentum for you, okay? And a lot of freedom in this earthly experience. Beautiful, beautiful, perfect intro and card to get for this episode today. Let's do it. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the neighborhood. I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. I'm your host, your guide, your mentor, and instructor in all things magic, witchcraft, astrology, and witchy business. And I'm the host of That Witch podcast. Welcome if this is your first time here. This is a very fun place most of the time, I would say. Hopefully everybody has fun. And if this is not your first time here, hello. Thank you so much for coming back. I love having you here. I am very excited to wrap up everything that we're talking about in our little 2-for-2 part series. We have been talking all about the divine energy exchange and what that is, and which is essentially a very magical and elevated term for business transaction. And last episode, we really covered what the divine energy exchange is, why it is so sacred, and ways that it has been, totally bastardized and exploited over, well, basically all of human history. And that, in our quest for progression, especially here in the spirit of Aquarius season, we're officially there, really in the spirit of that moving forward, that revolutionary energy as we, all catalyst humanity into the age of Aquarius in a few hundred years. It is time that we start talking about, okay, we're identifying the issues, we're calling out the truths, we're uncovering, we're bringing things out into the light, we're illuminating, and therefore we are enlightening ourselves. And now, this is really where we see the beautiful, beautiful, and yet very interesting relationship of Saturn and Aquarius. I don't want to get into, I just finished recording the Aquarius New Moon Shadow Chats episode with Ashley of Starseed Shadows. That will be coming out a week from today. Friday the 28th, it'll come out. And we talk about this, and it's really fascinating. So I don't want to get too crazy into it, but you'll get like a little piece of my mind about it today, I guess. But this concept that I'm talking about, and my intention with this concept of these couple of episodes I have, is really a beautiful representation of the very unique energy and relationship between the traditional ruler of Aquarius, which is Saturn, and Aquarius, the sign itself. Because we have Saturn, the traditionalist, right? And honestly, very based in the past. We look at a lot of, and there is, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton of forward, big picture thinking in Saturn. Trust me, that's kind of his whole bag. That's why he's father time. But I mean, in contrast to Aquarius, which is specifically so and almost only forward, Saturn, which is also very forward, is also very backward, meaning very backwards reflecting. And these two can have a little bit of challenge in that. And there is definitely this, especially in mythology, this father-son relationship and tension there. And you can really look at this rebel versus authority sometimes. Okay. I'll at least give you that. Knowing that, that is really how I see this, that we do need to identify and look at, okay, this is tradition. This is how things have been. These are the structures and the systems that we have had for so long. Let's do an audit. What is working? What is not working? And now, how can we move forward with this information? And so I want today's episode to be very Aquarius based and be specifically about that forward motion. And I want this to be about really opening and expanding our minds into how we can exchange goods and services with each other. Quite honestly, I think that we are so used to this customer and merchant. Everywhere you go, in almost every single transaction, this is what you see. You see somebody with goods or services, somebody that and provides them, and somebody who needs them, and they give them money. A tender, right? This legal form of tender that we've all agreed upon the value. When you're born, into your respective cultures and countries, like, you are born into accepting the legal tender, basically. So we do technically agree to it. And at the same time, I'm like, well, we're not also super given a choice either. And that's where I want to start opening this up. I want to start empowering individuals to take more matters into their own hands and to remember how resourceful and really naturally adaptive we are as human beings. And when I say naturally adaptive, it's like, yeah, cool, whatever, we adapt. That right there, that like passive little taking for granted, oh yeah, cool, we can adapt. That is a perfect example of what can happen with the trine aspect in astrology, okay? A trine takes place, if you remember, on our aspects episode during the applicable astrology mini-series, mostly last month, right? A trine takes place between two placements that are in signs of the same element. And so water to water, earth to earth, okay, and so on. And this is actually a little mini superpower. It's a little skill. It's a natural ability, okay? That's the best way to describe it. It's a natural ability that you are born with. And it's an ability, it's very easy for you to tap in and out of, almost like breathing. It's almost as simple as breathing usually. And therefore, it's something that we massively, massively take for granted. And the same goes for this. In this, humans are incredibly resourceful and adaptive, right? We know that life will always find a way. If you look out through human history, have we been idiots for a long time in so many ways? Yeah, obviously. Obviously. And wow, at the same time, aren't we little cockroaches? Don't we just like keep on going and keep on trucking at the same time? Can we start using that power for good? That's what I want to inspire. Can we take those natural abilities, take those natural gifts, and instead of them just being like, yeah, it's this thing that I do. Oh my God, I grow and I adapt and I evolve and I change. Like, awesome. Let's like grab that. Like, let's grab onto that and hold on to it and protect it and do something with it. Seriously. Like, just to offer you a cliche, but it's still very powerful. Be the change that you want to see. All of us, and this really, really was my purpose and intention with the first part of this. All of us have experienced being like some kind of slimy, shitty business transaction or money scheme, or found ourselves in really toxic financial cycles or holes. And I'm not even talking about debt, because debt is not inherently a bad thing. Debt especially doesn't have to be a bad thing, but when you are part of a system and part of conditioning for so fucking long, that sets you up for failure to most, so that the few benefit and profit from it. Like, you're definitely gonna feel like you're swimming against the current, and all of us are. Being a catalyst, living during a historically significant time is difficult, not easy, and probably not fun most of the time. I mean, look back at your studies of history, even if the last time you studied history was in social studies, like, meaning elementary school. Remember, we called it social studies. I don't know where you went to school, but we didn't start calling it history until much later years. It was always social studies. But which I just find interesting. But think back about everything that you've learned and know about human history. Well, it's a lot of suffering, especially during the momentous shifts when you're learning about chunks of history in like handfuls of centuries, or in couple of 1,000-year increments. You know what I mean? Like when you're grouping these large amount of times together, right? Because we're looking at this whole, you will see at those big, profound shifts where we see different ages and eras and movements and things like that, from, right? Like medieval to the Renaissance to like there's so many different, the Industrial Revolution. There's all these different momentous shifts throughout human history. And during all of those, it is a big, giant, grand metaphor for growing pains. And so that means there's a lot of suffering that goes into it. And truly, truly, when we learn about places where progress and change have taken place, it is always a few against many. It is always a couple, right? A rare few swimming against the current, burdened with this responsibility or obligation, however you want to look at it, of opening other people's minds. And not only that, but getting people to take action. That's the hard part. Opening minds, way easier. And honestly, that's also not easy. Holy moly. It is not easy to open a closed mind because we all have free will and choice. I mean, no matter what, your odds are kind of 50-50 no matter what, because that person is going to make a choice for themselves at the end of the day, or that group of people, or whatever it is. And so know that there is this swimming against the current energy that a lot of us are going to experience. And it's the point. It's the point of all of it. This is what is getting us to start thinking outside of the box. So we really see, like I said, a business transaction as like merchant and provider. But there are so many other ways to acquire goods and services or to offer goods and services. And honestly, I don't know all the ways. I don't have some long list of great ideas that I have of these are different economic systems that I've thought of. Sorry, I have not drafted up any economic systems. However, I don't see us having that conversation in general or asking those questions in general enough or frequently enough. Like frequently enough or at all or those kinds, like in any way, shape or form enough. I don't see that nearly enough in my experience, at least. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you are part of a community or somewhere you were raised or people that you know or somewhere that you work where you are partaking or witnessing in these incredible groundbreaking brainstorms and debates and discussions that we need to have in order to really, truly break down and change and therefore improve in honor of our Virgo moon that we're under today, and therefore improve our system. And do you know how we do this? Because does that not sound, let me ask you this, does that not sound like the biggest fucking undertaking of your life? Of course it does. When I receive like insights or downloads like this from my guides, or I achieve these understandings when I'm having these big discussions with my husband, for example, like it's overwhelming. It's intimidating. We have to change history? Damn it. Like, that's how it feels. Like, God damn it. And I know that sounds like this humongo task. Great, Danny. I already got to remember to drink enough water, to get my self-care in, to spend enough quality time with my loved ones, spend time, aligning with my career or business, like spend time studying, like, right? And now you're adding save the fucking world or change the world, essentially. No, not necessarily. You don't need to add save or change the world to your to-do list, because in beautiful, beautiful honor of today's Virgo moon that we're under, there is so much beauty and power in the details, in the small, in the subtle, and in the simple. Everything. Almost everything. Sorry, I don't like absolutes. Almost everything. Almost every catalyst is triggered by something small, simple, or subtle. And so when we really take that information, that perspective into consideration, first of all, it really helps drastically reduce the size of that undertaking. Number one. Number two, it really helps us in the polarity of individuality and collective, because in this concept of progress and change and opening our minds and starting to actually physically do things differently, don't just stay in the idea phase. Okay. It's also the follow through. We have this accountability that comes into play very, very much so, right? Like everybody has to be a strong individual to be part of this greater whole. And the collective or the whole is also just as important, right? They both feed and nurture one another. This is what we learn on that polarity, which we really see on two different axes in astrology. We see this both on the Aries Libra axis, and we see this on the Leo Aquarius axis. We cannot truly, I mean this, listen, we cannot truly do anything for anyone or large groups of people or our community or our collective if we don't start at home. How many times have I said that here? Like, and I'll just never stop saying it. And this really is what I mean. So first and foremost, let's audit where are areas in our spending that we can bring in some harmony and some alignment. So what this could look like is purchasing from more, ethically owned and ran businesses. Don't do the unevolved Aquarius thing and the unevolved Capricorn thing, quite honestly, of I could do it all. I could do it all right now. No. This is why the beauty, this is where we are going to appreciate the lower hemisphere of the wheel signs like Virgo, where we are very, very detail focused. Sometimes it's about what you can do today. Did you hear me? Do I need to say that again? Sometimes it's just about what you need to do today. It's not about saving the entire world. It's not about being the perfect person. It's not about becoming the saint or the savior of everyone. It's not about that. That can be a motivator, that can be a vision, and that can be a beautiful, pure intention. But sometimes it's going to be, and most of the time, if we're being honest about our reality, most of the time, it's going to be about what we can do today. So instead of, I'm really trying to not shop at any, unethically corporate owned company. I will only shop small business from here on out. That is beautiful. I love you for that goal. And there is a deep, deep part of me that wants the exact same thing. And let's be realistic. And let's bring that into reality and adjust that intention. Because what goals, honestly, or kind of like fix all solutions like that. Oh, well, I found out that there's these unethical practices going on in these big businesses. So I'm just going to stop supporting all of them. And I'm only going to do, that is a huge undertaking. That's a huge lifestyle shift. That is pretty realistically and most likely going to trigger a cycle of guilt, because you're probably not going to follow through with that, which is okay, which is all right. Again, we're still subject to our conditioning and our system, okay? We weren't set up for success. So we have to have a lot of patience for ourselves as we work out of these systems and we work out of these cycles. And therefore, then we see this progress and this change, okay? We have to have some patience with ourselves because we're set up for failure in a lot of ways. We're set up not to succeed and not to shine and not to reach our full potential in most ways. So have patience with yourself. Most likely setting an intention like that or a goal like that is going to trigger a guilt cycle that you're not going to follow through with. And then it's going to trigger usually multiple strings of actions of, well, if I can't do this, then I might as well not do this. And I might as well not. And it gives us hopelessness and we just stop. We stop fucking trying. We stop fucking caring. Okay? This is why the small and the subtle and the simple are so life-changing and just, I mean this, just as powerful as the big significant shifts and changes, okay? So with finances, for example, how about eliminating one store, okay? How about not going to one store? And we're doing that right now. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Fuck you. We are able to sustainably make that change from a place that was so a part of our routine and lives, and the same for many people. I'm talking about Kroger, obviously. I'm talking about King. In our state, that's King Supers. And people are boycotting for many reasons. But to sum up unfair labor practices, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So this was a place that we really depended on and we went to very regularly. It was a part of our routine and a part of our lives. But to just eliminate one store, this was actually a lot easier to do than you might think. And we've been able to go, okay, well, instead of, devoting our time doing this and what we have normally been doing, now that freed up that so that we can adjust and make these decisions here, and we'll go to this store instead, and we'll do it on this day instead, or whatever, okay? So that's just one small change, okay? It could be, you can apply this concept into the things that you purchase. There's a certain type of product or a very specific company or brand that you don't want to purchase from anymore. Or the flip side. Let's do the flip side now. You want to specifically start incorporating more small business purchases into your budget and into your regular spending routine, okay? There are a lot of amazing apps out there right now, like shopping platforms that are different than Amazon, okay? So if you don't want to support Amazon, get off Amazon and then do a little bit of legwork. Again, you don't have to eliminate every other company in your scope, and then do a little bit of research. Get on your app store and type in shopping app and look around at different options. And honestly, read a couple reviews. For crying out loud, it's not that hard, okay? You don't have to just, and that's what this is all about. This Aquarius episode and energy is all about. It's not, challenge yourself to just not go to the next easiest thing, which is in that, mainstream, okay? Challenge yourself to do just a little bit of difference. Don't always look at it as extra energy, right? Because in this case, especially, I'm eliminating a store that I go to. So I just freed up time and energy that I can now move and devote somewhere else, okay? So if you want to start incorporating and supporting more small business, for example, you can apply that same, one change or one shift concept to the same thing. So if you are able to eliminate another brand that you regularly buy, this could be anywhere from fucking potato chips to skincare products, literally anything, right? Like there's a small business and a locally owned company for fucking everything. Jesus, everything nowadays, okay? Which one do you want to eliminate and who do you want to replace them with? And you can also go about that process in the reverse. Is there a company that you really, really love? I'll give you a wonderful example of something that many of us buy regularly are accessories, okay? No matter how you identify, what your style is, everybody likes an accessory of some fucking kind, okay? Right? Everybody likes accessories. And a lot of people pick them up at their big box store, right? Because you're already there or whatever, and you're walking around and you're going through the clothes, and then you go through the wallets and the sunglasses, right? Now instead, you're like, oh, I'm going to start buying my accessories specifically from small business. And I encourage you could like hop on Etsy. Etsy is tough. I have a love-hate relationship with Etsy because they can be really, really hard on small business. And they have this huge platform that can be a rocket ship or a rocket launcher for a lot of small businesses. So, whether or not you do the Etsy thing, it can either way at least be a wonderful, wonderful place to start and find a small business that you want to support. And a lot of those makers actually also have their own website that they're also building traffic and building sites for or like views for. Okay. And so Etsy can be a launch pad if you don't want to like strictly do your shopping on there for any reason. Another very easy replacement for me has been in going to the thrift store and consignment stores more often. I rarely buy clothing from anywhere but the thrift store. That is first and foremost the place that I go. And for me, I get so much fun inspiration for thrifting and outfits and all of it, the whole process on both TikTok and Pinterest, okay? Specifically, both TikTok and Pinterest are gold mines for thrifters and thrifting in general. So if you want to fall down a really fun rabbit hole. But this is a beautiful way to recycle and upcycle. You can utilize apps like ThredUp, which is an app where you can sell your gently used clothes on consignment and buy gently used clothes. This is a beautiful example of a new idea of the divine energy exchange. I love this example. There was a time for a really long time that going to the thrift store was on a collective and big level looked at this like low vibe thing. And it was really looked down on and disdainful and like only people of a certain class. And it got turned into this really toxic elitism when thrifting and consignment stores from the get-go should always be seen for what it is in its purest form, which is sustainable. It's just fucking sustainable. And if you like clothing, if you like fashion, if you like being unique just in general, you need to go thrifting because that's where, like, honestly, that's my favorite place to start for really, really unique pieces. And I feel so much better about not contributing to as much over consumerism, okay, or toxic and mindless consumerism. Another thing that you can do is you and your friends, you and your friends as acquaintances, and you met at the bar, and now you're Facebook friends, and now you're Instagram pals, right? Like, we have such a bigger fucking network than we realize. So much bigger than our ancestors ever had. If our ancestors, which many of them were craftspeople, right? People that had to learn a skill and pass it on, right? And like you lived by that skill. And they're like, wait a second. You're telling me you have access to how many ears and how many eyes? Your platform gives you access to how many fucking people? Like, and not only your platform, like to the world, like Instagram and social media. I mean, even just your fucking cell phone. Just your regular phone. Your phone from 15, 20 years ago gave you access to like such a bigger network of people than our ancestors had access to. And there are people that will very likely not be able to provide for themselves something that you can provide. And when we really open ourselves up to collaboration, and we have some courage to put some collaborative efforts out there, we will be rewarded with so much in return. I can genuinely speak for this for myself, on a personal level and on a professional level. And I got my first LLC in 2016. I've been in business for a few freaking years now. And I can tell you that when you break free of toxic competition mindset and those old myths of market saturation and things of that nature that really pit makers and business owners and service providers against each other, when you're able to break free of that,
you're able to see things through the eyes that many of us are finally starting to see things through and go, we can work together. Oh my God. Oh my God. We are so much more resourceful and self-sustainable than we are very, very, very purposefully conditioned to believe. And it is time to start really opening up to our resourcefulness. You would be so fucking surprised what happens when you just try, when you just make an offer. Are you going to get told no sometimes? Yeah, you are. And in true Aquarius, lesson here, I'm just going to say, and then you get over it and you keep moving forward, quite frankly, honestly, in the name of the greater good. But what's going to happen is sometimes people are going to say yes. And those yeses are going to so crazy outshine the no's. You're going to be like, who cares about the people that said no? They weren't aligned. They weren't aligned for this anyways. So if you have something you can offer, if there is something that you can do, even if it's something that is creative, so many people are like, but the skill that I have, but it's not something useful to people. If you are a creative, or if you are an artist or an innovator in that way, people, or an entertainer, people, that is valuable. Don't you ever, ever, ever. I don't want to ever catch you doing that ever again. Right now, Venus is in retrograde in Capricorn specifically. For just a little while longer. We're at the very, very tail end of this Venus retrograde here, okay? And I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that negative self-narrative that your art or your entertainment or your just pure pleasure and joy and fun that you offer the world doesn't have value because it's not something that can be useful. That, my friend, is old, toxic, unevolved Capricornian themes, okay? Of it must be a logical, practical use. Otherwise, it's full of fiddle-faddle and it's nonsense and blah. Get out of here. Get out of here. People have been making a disgusting amount of money off of entertainment and pleasure and being, again, still conditioned and used by the system that it works underneath. And a lot of those skills have been used to keep us very, very distracted, okay? There's a lot of very mindless entertainment media out there is what I'm talking about. I'm sure you can think of plenty of examples on your own, okay? I don't need to offend anybody today. I don't need to offend anybody too much today, I guess. I'm talking about mindless entertainment media, okay? When you look at that and it just fills you with disgust and I hate this and it keeps us all distracted and it keeps us all dumb and it keeps us all clouded, then again, I challenge you to be the change you want to see. You creatives, you passionate artists out there, and you entertainment makers, you offer and provide so much value, so much value. And you would be surprised at what people are willing to exchange and trade for. And guess what? That's the beauty of the divine energy exchange. When you ensure that you're really adhering to your energetic boundaries, right? You're only working with people that you align with, and you're, sometimes we're going to get fucking burned. People will manipulate us and take advantage of us. That's a part of the deal. That's a part of life. But again, if you can work through and get through those risks, and I promise you that you can, because again, resourceful and adaptive, I promise you'll get through it. Then, because Saturn does not give you anything you can't handle. All these lessons are nothing that you can't handle. You can do this. Then when you get to the yeses, then when you get to the aligned folks, I just can't even begin to tell you the absolutely magical community you will find yourself in. Absolutely magical community. I am so happy and so proud to say that I participate in all kinds of fair trade exchange in many areas of my business and in my life. With my friends, with colleagues, with people that I've met, with people that have reached out to me, like people I've reached out to. And I promise you that if we can start breaking past this poisonous lie that we've been told that money is the only way, like money can be part of the exchange if you want. It can be part of it. It can be part of the value being exchanged or provided, sure. But let's start thinking outside of the money, of the monetary. That's all I mean. Let's expand, especially with this beautiful Jupiter and Pisces, right? Let's expand that idea. What can that look like? Be bold. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no to the trade. And then you'll be like, okay. And then you'll keep going. And then there'll be another person that you're like, ooh, maybe this person would enjoy this. I've seen people do fair trade exchanges for all kinds of things, whether it's for tattoos and clerical work. Seriously, it could be like completely different. This is why, like, I want you, because I know what was happening while I was talking about exchanging goods and services. Immediately, our minds, again, part of our conditioning, goes to, okay, well, what like spiritual service or good can I offer for another spiritual service or good? No, I mean, you could do that too, but go bigger. Let's get bigger. Get crazy. Get Aquarius. Get Uranus and Saturn in there and get a little unorthodox and be like, how can we take that co-rulership of Saturn and Uranus over Aquarius, the rebel and the traditionalist, right? This like dignified restrictor and disciplinarian, and again, this revolutionary and this like button pusher and pot stirrer. Let's bring that energy together and let's expand. Some things will come to an end. Some systems that we have in place will disappear, I think, over time. But I think that some things will stick around. I think that a lot of old financial structures and systems might stick. Things that were like, well, I mean, this isn't doing me any harm. I don't know that we'll see money go away. I think that we're watching it change. I think we're watching a very fascinating shift from like what went from literal metal and stones, right? And it used to be literal goods and service exchanges. A lot of time based on weight, right? Like weighing stones, like very, very physical into this physical paper, and then we had this paper exchange. We still kind of maintain that even in checks, but in checks is when we finally started also getting a little bit of this. Now I can't see it as much. Now the money is a little more arbitrary. It's not as physical, right? Now we're taking things on faith. Now we're taking things from the physical into collateral almost. And then we start seeing this shift into more and more digital. We see the credit card coming into play, then the chips, then online business transactions. And now, of course, we're watching things like cryptocurrency and another very fascinating one, very daily simplified investment and stock exchange and trading. This is something that is relatively new-ish. It's not super, super new to people that have been, really into that realm for a while, because a lot of these apps and platforms these investing and stock trading apps have been around for a little while, but they're gaining popularity now is what I mean. Very, very recently, I've noticed a lot of big spike in 2022 in advertisements on various platforms for specifically apps and platforms that offer financial education or savings tools or investment tools or stock trading. And that really is, kind of my final insight and advice as well to continue expanding on and opening your mind to is what we see as money, how we see it, and the value we provide to it. And start expanding our ideas around that, because I think that when we start doing that, I think a beautiful byproduct that can come from really the evolution of what money is, we might, if you can take advantage of this, you could harness the ability to let go of old emotional attachments and traumas and wounds associated with money, and take this new chapter and really, release all of that, and now start redefining and remolding your ideas around money and its value, therefore its power over you. And I think that a lot of us are going to have the ability and the power to claim that back for ourselves, and to not, honestly, and this is the big one, to not allow others to try and attempt to control us with that. Because just to reiterate, in closing, just to reiterate what we talked about at the very beginning, it's as simple as that, to talk about the simple again. It really is as simple as that. And Aquarius teaches that. You don't have to follow the rule. It doesn't have to be this way. We could start changing how we think about it. We could start asking questions. It doesn't have to be big right now. It could be really small, and that will be just as valuable. So I invite you, going into this weekend, at the start of this Aquarius season, very mid Mercury retrograde. This is perfect because Mercury is retrograding specifically through the signs from Aquarius back into Capricorn. And therefore, when Mercury stations direct, is going to make its way back through Capricorn and into Aquarius again. So we're going to be in these themes and in these lessons a lot. And I invite you to take this very reflective re-examination, re-evaluation time that a retrograde is, and explore some of these questions in your introspective time. So whether that is your journal for you, or meditation for you, or maybe that's like the headspace you go to when you exercise or go on a walk or listen to music or get ready in the morning. For me, it's really, one of my biggest meditative times is when I'm doing like chores and tasks like cleaning, vacuuming, and getting ready in the morning, because there are things that I do so regularly that my body is able to like function on its own, and my brain capacity can be used for a lot more introspective work. And so I want you to start exploring some of these ideas and some of these questions for yourself, especially if you find yourself frustrated with your financial situation. If you find yourself feeling very crippled under the stress of finances right now, remember that this stress and this discomfort is occurring for a reason. It is getting you to change something. Uranus does that, which, by the way, we're in Aquarius season, and Uranus rules Aquarius. And so this is why I talk about and Saturn traditionally does. And this is why I talk about them so much. But let's not forget that Saturn, who's also in Aquarius right now, but Uranus is in Taurus right now, in an earth sign, very much digging up themes about our finances and our assets and our resources, okay? So I want you to really remember that the discomfort, the unexpected shifts and changes and events, right, that are happening to you, or that the cycles or patterns you're having trouble getting out of when it comes to business or sales or money, right? I want you to remember that discomfort is for a reason, and let's use it. Start with the discomfort itself, okay? Here's the exercise. Start with the discomfort itself. What is not working? What do you hate? What are the biggest causes of the stress, of the discomfort, of the discontentment, of the disharmony, of the imbalances? Name these. I don't care how long the list is or short. I don't care. What do you hate the most? What is not working? What doesn't bring you joy? Okay, next. What are the things that you really, really do enjoy, that you do get a lot of joy from, that you feel or seem to be taking away from the situation? So even though they feel really good and they're things that bring you joy, what are those things that are still causing stress and disharmony? Is it spending way too much money on like the the type of food that you buy. Like maybe you've been in specifically like a really processed food phase and you're like, I'm like buying just fast food at every meal for weeks and weeks. Like I just can't get out of this rut. Is it I keep spending everything. I keep spending absolutely every penny. I haven't saved anything. I'm finding myself constantly paycheck to paycheck. And I know that there are things that bring me joy, but I know that they're directly contributing, right? So explore some of those things. What do you hate that's not working? What do you love that might be, it doesn't mean you have to eliminate it, but might be, conflicting with the system right now? What are the things that you hope to do? What are the things that you aspire to do? What is the type of life that you really feel like you are actively trying to get to? And how, challenge yourself further, what ways can you bring that energy into your life now? That greater vision and that greater good. What are some small things from that big, beautiful daydream vision that you have that you can incorporate now? It could be the tiniest little thing. Again, like I said, switching a brand from a big brand that you heard was really, really unethical to a pretty comparably priced similar product of a company or business that you have found or think is really ethical or you just specifically want to support. Simple trade. Shouldn't affect the budget by more than a few dollars, okay? You can find, again, there are a lot of other businesses out there providing products at all types of, and you might have to pay a little more, but again, it's just a small little increase because we're just trading. What can you do, though, to bring a simple thing from that future and greater good into now? Because this will really help in your manifestation and your affirmation work. And it will break you out of the habit of saying, I'm going to do this. I need to start doing this. And you can start saying, I live this way now. Because even if you aren't, quote unquote, accomplishing or achieving everything that you are setting out to, what you can honestly stand by saying is, I have lived by that intention, though. I purely live by that intention and that mindfulness, though, for that greater good. And that's how you bring that future into your present. And I promise you, it's absolutely game changing for your affirmation and your manifestation and spell work. Truly, when you take that vision that feels so intangible and bring it to the very, very physical and tangible. Okay. So explore with yourself in your introspective time, your discomforts and your joys and how those seem to be interacting with each other. And what ways are you making money right now? And same thing. What do you enjoy about that? What do you not enjoy about that? What are you ready to leave behind from that, but feel like you can't? What do you want to embrace? Do you want to leave the whole entire thing behind? Okay, so start exploring that when it comes to how you make money, whether that's a business you own or a job that you have. And then spending money, okay? Where does your money go that you feel really good about? And where does your money go that you're like, every time, even if it's a microscopic part of you that's like, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that. What is that? What is that thing for you? Why? Why does it make you feel that way? I want you to unlock your Aquarian natural inquisitive energy, okay? I want you to really, really tap into this Sun in Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius, Mercury retrograding from Aquarius back into Capricorn, and this Uranus retrograde in Taurus, which Uranus is about to go, or just stationed. Sorry, Uranus already stationed direct, but is going to station retrograde again in August this year. But tap into that earthy Uranus happening right now in Taurus. Okay, I want you to explore and dive into and bring that inquisitive, kind of rebellious, outside of the box thinker into your financial and professional realm, and look around. And for a lot of you, it's a scary place. Finances and business, it brings a lot of stress. This is where you really tap into that emotional detachment. Okay, I know this is scary, and I know this is triggering, and I know this is stressful, and I need to explore these themes in myself because there are things that I need to bring into alignment, period. That's the Aquarian way. Okay? And then I want you to take some time to explore some of the different questions, some of the different themes and new ideas we've talked about. And I want you to write down or speak out loud or document in any way, if you can, any new ideas that were sparked for you, whether it was during this episode or during this work that you can do for yourself, hopefully. Okay. I think that so many of us are a part of something so big and so beautiful, and it's going to seem so small, and it's really actually going to be so big and so powerful. So, all of you, I love you. Thank you. Do your part too, and you stay magical out there.